Welcome to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where two distinct worlds live side by side. Here, the Amish community preserves a traditional way of life, horse-drawn buggies, and tilled fields, and a pace untouched by modern technology. Just down the road in the small town of Strasburg, you'll find classic diners, shops, and even a vintage railroad that brings both Amish families and visitors together to enjoy scenic rides through the countryside. Join me as I explore the Amish lifestyle to find out which one you like best, the digital detox lifestyle or small town America.
As our interlocutor confirmed, Amish aren't a fan of traveling and you can go far on horseback. But then how did they end up in America? Anabaptists from whom the Amish descended were disliked in Europe. At the time of the Reformation, they insisted that a person must be baptized at a conscious age, not as an infant. Their views on baptism and the role of the church were considered dangerous and radical. That's why in Catholic and Protestant countries, Anabaptists were persecuted, tortured, and executed as heretics. The same fate awaited the seceded Amish. In the late 17th century, they began moving to North America chasing a better life, more specifically to the new colony of Pennsylvania. Its creator, William Penn, declared complete religious freedom in the territory. Penn himself belonged to the Quakers, such a radical Protestant movement who were persecuted in England. So he sought to create a society of equality and tolerance in the new colonies. With his ideas about liberty, Penn attracted the Amish here, a large part of whom moved to Pennsylvania in the 1820s and 30s. The newly arrived Amish settled in Lancaster County. This American region is still considered to be their main center. This is where they hold public events and interact with tourists who generate income for the communities. In total, Pennsylvania is home to more than 84,000 Amish, 41,000 of whom live in Lancaster County. Their total number in the US has more than doubled in the last 20 years. In 2000, there were fewer than 175,000 Amish living in the country. That figure has now risen to 355,000. Judging by the growing number of Amish, they're not living poor and can afford to support many children, and their houses look pretty impressive. This is what the Amish home looks like. Here's a buggy garage. And the house itself. They actually have some really cool houses. I mean, it's so ordinary, but there are also some really expensive houses. But surprisingly, there's not an expensive car outside an expensive house, but an ordinary buggy. It's a shame that I can often only talk with the Amish without cameras.
Why you don't like the pictures?
I don't know. It's just don't feel right.
It's like a tradition.
Yeah.
But if someone like just anyway take it, what do you feel? You don't bad or you don't care?
It's not that we feel bad, but we don't like our papers. I mean, our pictures in the paper and stuff.
In the paper.
It's not the paper, it's a digital now.
Right, but
Is it different for you, the paper or the digital, or it's still the picture?
it's still a picture. Yeah.
I got it.
Like, you never know. Like, if somebody just said they're gonna take a picture, and they're not gonna put it in the paper, but you never know if they're going.
And what's the problem with the paper?
What's that?
If somebody put your picture in the paper, so what's the problem for you?
What's happened?
What
Why is
happened?
that?
It's not gonna. Nothing's gonna happen. It's just, yeah.
And how old are you?
I'm 19.
19.
Yeah.
And you?
17.
17.
Oh. You finished the school
Yeah.
and next level of your life is a farmer.
What's that?
Marriage.
You feel that you finished the school when you got married.
Whenever I want to, I guess. Just like you didn't get married before you wanted to, did you?
Yeah, that's true. Nobody married if you don't want to. Yeah, that's right. You have I heard the room spring. It's like a period when you feel free to do anything you want.
Yeah.
It's like the age of 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Do you have a room spring there?
Yeah.
What you did?
hang out with my
I
friends.
don't. I heard you can travel and whatever you want, do whatever you want. You can move to the New
To
York
the
City.
city, drink alcohol, go
No, we don't drink.
club.
You don't drink alcohol.
Never. You never tried.
No, I never drank alcohol.
What about smoking? Cigarettes? You can smoke. Do you want to live their life? The other people live, like driving the cars, going to the cinemas.
That's the Amish home. And look, an important part of the home is the gas storage. The house itself is quite modern, fancy. I don't think it's cheap to build a house like this. Regarding how the Amish build their homes, I think a lot of people have seen videos on the internet when Amish get together, pick up a barn and move it somewhere else. If they need to build a big barn, then all the members of the community come together and build a barn in a day. It's probably the only place in the world where people build what they need themselves, helping neighbors and relatives. This kind of communal building actually answers the question of how even not the rich people can afford such big houses and farms. They're just being helped by everyone, the whole village, so to speak. I also think it's important to note that the Amish build things for decades. The things they build are always beautiful, very high quality. They don't migrate, they never move. And unlike Americans who often build houses in a very pragmatic way, that is, they don't build a house to inherit to their children or grandchildren. In America, this story has been over for a long time. People often move to other states when they retire. Amish aren't planning to go anywhere. They're building houses that will serve them for a lifetime. They have a good, solid, very high quality construction. There's a bit of a problem. Or maybe not a problem, but a gift of fate. Because today is the 26th of May. As it turns out, it's the feast of the Ascension of the Lord, which is celebrated on the 40th day after Easter, and nothing is open today. And we don't yet understand how the Amish celebrate this holiday because the Christian tradition is to go to the temples, worship services, and so on. But what's the problem for the Amish? They don't have temples. This is a good time to talk about the Amish religion. They are professing Christians, they're Protestants, but it's not that simple. The Amish apply all of the biblical precepts in practice. They love their enemies, deny violence, and forgive insults. They're baptized at a conscious age. A member of the congregation must be baptized when they're from 18 to 22 years old. If a person, for example, does not want to remain in the congregation, before being baptized, he or she can officially refuse and leave the community. They can visit their family and friends in the future. That said, the Amish practice excommunication. This is when a baptized offender can be banished from the community forever and there's no way of going back. Amish territories are divided into districts. In each such district there are 2 or 3 priests, 1 deacon and 1 bishop. Actually, they're the ones setting up the main set of rules of life and living followed by the Amish of the county. That's why different counties may have different laws. Any Amish male can become a priest. They are warned about this even before they get baptized. By the way, you don't need to have any specialized training to become a priest here. It's all a matter of the lot. The Amish of one county pray all together every second Sunday. The service takes around 3 hours. What's interesting is that most communities don't have separate temples and they simply use the homes of the parishioners for different ceremonies. And from house to house they transport special long benches which are placed at the site of the service. So we are now pulling to the Amish home for tonight's holiday service. It's fully parked here. There are people all dressed up there. You can see the number of people here that have come here. The horses are all stabled. And here's also a buggy park for those who didn't have enough space. Here comes another crew, the kids are all excited. It's beautiful. If yesterday was a work day and they were in plain clothes, today they're all in festive clothes. They looked incredibly cool, nice and just awesome yesterday too, but today they really look like some kind of fairy tale picture. I want to become Amish. I look at them and it's amazing. Are you ready to get up at 5 a.m. to plow the fields? Can I just be a happy Amish and not work? That's what parking looks like. They're unharnessing a horse and the woman is parking their carriage by hand.
Паркуют вручную свою тележку, карету.
Did you notice that there are no buggy theft problems here? People have just left all their belongings and have gone away. Well, that's because there's no crime here. By the way, how many police cars have you seen whilst being here? I haven't seen a single one. Look, there's a family that came by a car, but the driver isn't Amish. So the driver is American, they probably came by a taxi. Here comes the whole family. So some Amish arrive here in their buggies on their own and park on one side. And others parking over here, they come in minibuses, but it's the American drivers who bring them here because the Amish don't drive.
Are you driving the Amish? You like a driver?
I just, my neighbors and such, I don't have a,
Do you
help
do?
my neighbors out.
You doing for the money or you just?
I just, I get compensated that
Or it's just fun for you or just be helpful? What? How to live with the Amish like a neighbors? Does they the good people?
Oh, very good people.
Very good.
They're industrious. They have good ethics.
Any problems with them?
No. They're good people.
Nice. They don't answer us. I asked it twice or three times why they don't drive the cars. They say it's just the order, just rules. But nobody explained me why the rules is so.
My neighbor just bought a truck. He's starting his own business next week. And he bought his own truck.
He's
And
Amish.
he's looking for a driver, yeah.
You drive. Someone drives for the Amish. They own the trucks, but never drive the truck.
Yes, they don't drive it.
I got it.
Yeah, well, I think there's some younger ones who do.
She's a driver for the Amish and she also takes pictures of them. And that's one of her very beautiful pictures.
Your average tourists don't get shots like this.
Yeah.
I get to be friends with these guys, and they let me on their farm, and I chase them through the fields and get some photos.
What do you think if we ask him to film and he say it okay or?
A lot of these guys will. In fact, one of my ladies I drive, her son asked me to photograph him while he was out in the field, and he wants a copy.
Since it's a holiday, a lot of people bring their children to see the railway model. I don't really know why exactly they like it so much, but there are a lot of families coming here.
Sorry, what's the date today? Why people come here?
Probably toward Chuchuborn.
What is this? We're tourists. I came from Russia.
Okay.
First time here.
It would be a holiday for us today. The Ascension Day.
It's like a national holiday or it's a local?
No, just mostly under the Amish people.
It's Amish holiday.
Yeah,
I
it
got
would be a church holiday. Yeah.
Church holiday.
Sorry, and why don't you use cars? Why everybody comes on horse?
It's what we've always used.
You never use it, or it's because of holiday, or
No, we never use.
never use? Why?
Never drive a car?
No, this is our transportation.
What's the reason? Why?
Old ways. Yeah, be the ways our forefathers had. Yeah.
And you never drive car?
No.
Never.
Try it.
No. Okay, let's go.
Why drive the horses?
Why drive
It's
the
the
horse?
21st century.
It's fun.
It's fun? Yeah. Just because it's fun? No, I believe it's fun. But it's the real reason.
That's our guidelines with our church.
Is it because the church?
So it's forbidden to drive car?
Yes.
What's happened if you accidentally drive the car? It's
Well, we
it's
just
like a
don't-
sin or
We don't do that.
you don't do it. You never try it. You never.
No, we just get a driver. Like we hire a driver to take us places. That
You drive like a passenger.
Yeah.
But never drive it by yourself.
No.
Wow. Amazing.
But you use cars for farming if you need some special cars.
No.
Tractors, no?
No.
I saw the guy in a hat like yours driving the bobcat or the small machine
We would do that. Yeah. But like
for the farming.
for the field work, they use horses or mules.
What's interesting is that each family has slightly different festive attire. That is, they are all in the same style. Everyone has more or less the same identical costumes. Everybody goes to see that steam train. They live here their whole life and it's been here their whole life. Man, how many steam train rides can you take? And people still ride the steam train. We came to the town of Strasburg in Lancaster County. It was named after a French town Strasbourg, the settlers from which were the first inhabitants here. American Strasbourg is not known for its fairs but for its trains. It's even been called the train capital of the United States. It's home to the oldest active railway in the entire Western Hemisphere. It was laid out in 1832. What surprises me about the Amish, apart from lifestyle of course, is the way they spend their free time, the way they relax. Here we are now at the railway station. The kind of tourist railway where people just ride in a steam train, and so they live in this region. They were born here, they live here, and they're likely to die here. And that's pretty much one of the few attractions here. And yet they don't go to the other Lancaster towns, don't walk the main streets, don't drive to New York City, but spend their time here in their homeland, riding the steam locomotive which they must have ridden 300 times in their lives. Well, that actually surprises me, because one always seems to want something bigger and newer. They live in such a way that they don't want anything else, they already have everything. Again, going back the question of happiness. Would you be happy? Well, you're saying you'd like to be Amish. Would you be happy if you were brought to ride a steam train every week? I don't think so. They're all smiling as well. This little Amish is so cute, and they're really close with their family. They go to restaurants or they take food from home that they've cooked and they come here and they'll probably have some kind of picnic. Look, some families even have this little trailer car they use to haul all this stuff around. There's some kind of little railway. Yes, it's a little road with a little train for little kids to ride on. There's a whole family standing around waiting for 8 children to board. They have 8 children in the family. And by the looks of it, it's not over yet. There's a regular family on the right and an Amish family on the left. Tell me, isn't that the cutest holiday you've had lately? It's actually really cute, yes. There are these people riding steam trains and everyone's very nice. So that's what the carriages look like. There are these nice seats. Again, everything is original. They restored these chairs. People started boarding this train now. By the way, you can flip this seat so you can choose which way they've turned to. Look at these lamps. It now has light bulbs inside it, but it used to be the usual paraffin one. Each carriage has its own interior, and just like in the other carriage, you can flip the seats over. There are several families already sitting here. Luxury furnaces everywhere. They're from 1850 to 1870s. When the Amish come here in their clothes, it's like you've traveled in a time machine. And that's some kind of performance. But no, it's the reality. This is how people actually live. The railway in Strasburg is awesome. Well, let's take a look at the city itself. And now I'm going to show you what a provincial small American town with a small population looks like. Well, it looks like a fairy tale. And you can't say it's some kind of a super popular destination that people come here from all over the country, or there's very good economy. It's a regular American province. Dennis won't lie. I disagree that it's an unpopular destination. Amish generate a huge flow of tourism, so their prices, including property, are quite high. And I wouldn't say it's typical. It's in a good location with a clientele that it's passing through. That's why we're going to set it apart from the usual towns. What's cool is that it's very cozy and old. In fact, America, a seemingly young country, was founded quite a long time ago. There's a banner hanging on the pole that the city was founded in 1730. I like the kind of business here. Look, you and I are at the crossroads. What do we see? We see an antique shop, we see a pizzeria on that side, there was a barber shop, another antique shop, a bank, and we have an ice cream cafe behind us. This is the type of business they have in the city center here. Strasburg isn't the Amish capital. Lancaster County is much more popular in that respect. The sign reads 1780. That's when this house was built. Each house has a date plaque on it. Yes, so that's the date this house was built, and here are a few packages from Amazon that someone who lives here has ordered. They just put them here under the door at one of the central crossroads. So it's one of the main streets of this little town, is just a pavement. No CCTV cameras, nothing. Well, how's that possible? Well, we have a camera. Yes, so there is a camera now, but still, there are just 2 parcels lying there in everyone's sight and no one's stealing them. Do you know what people who steal parcels are called in the US? There's a special term for them. Porch pirates. They are those who steal parcels from the porches. That's one of the downsides in big cities like Brooklyn, for example, and many ask you, the delivery drivers, to hide it behind something like a shed or something, because people just walk down the street and take others' parcels. The next house is some sort of cafe and there's a sign, 1796. Another shop, a vintage shop actually. I think there's like 4 of them in town. If anything's for sale here, it's all out on the street. No particular valuables, but nevertheless, this is how someone has decorated their shop. What I like about this town is this unity of the development. I mean, even with newly built houses, nothing is out of style. Even if they're constructing something new, they build them in the same sort of style. Because of this, the town is picturesque and pleasant to walk around. Look at this house on the other side of the road, it's amazing. It was built in 1855. There's this nice terrace, a flag. Well, it's beautiful. And there's a very cozy pavement here too. If you go into the courtyard there again, you can see how well maintained everything is. They have perfect lawns, greenery everywhere. There's a cemetery there too, and there are no fences around it. Here it's already someone's private property, but there's not a single fence. It looks absolutely amazing wherever you look. They don't build like that anymore. If they were building this town right now, the houses would be set back from the street. They would stand further away because there'd be less noise and more privacy. And back in the days when there were horse-drawn carts, when snow clearing was a big problem, the houses were built close to each other, so they're as close together as possible. That's why the old houses are usually very close together. There are plots where houses are a little bit further from each other, but closer to the road. Note how there's a street here and there are no fences. Trumpists live here, they've already planted their flag. Let's take back America in 2024. Here they are supporting Trump. Well, they also keep their place relatively tidy. In terms of tidiness, I think that Amish generate it around themselves. They set the bar, and so you start doing something too. I mean, imagine you're in some city, you went out in the area when there's rubbish laying around, all the houses are in ruins, you go to work in the underground, you're in a bad mood. As soon as you get out of your house, you're no longer happy. And if you live in a flowery neighborhood, as nice as this one is, you came out, you saw it, and your spirits lifted. And when your lawn will have grown out, when you have weeds growing somewhere on your property, you'll notice it right away. You're going to want to get rid of it, clean it up. I can't say that everything came out perfect here, the lawn isn't perfect at all, but people try to make things beautiful here. Talking about less than perfect lawns, Dennis, I'm just saying that you just got too used to it. When a person lives in America, they see a little less than perfect lawn and say that it's not all that good. I can tell you that you won't find lawns like this in Russia, even in the big cities that are getting huge money to maintain all these lawns. In the little yards near blocks of flats, you may not know, but in the spring the janitors they rake all that foliage down to the bare ground. It's very difficult to simply find a lawn that you can just sit on. And if we try to find something like that in a provincial town, they'll only have them in Rublevka or Barivka, the elite cottage estates near Moscow where all the rich people used to buy property. And I still doubt they'll have as many perfect lawns there. By the way, I have a video about Rublevka. Be sure to check it out. I'm just saying that there's a different America where things are a little different. It exists too, but thankfully it's a minority. Most of the cities are very nice, neat and beautiful. This building is actually a mall or something. There are different tenants here. See, there's a list of them. There's an engineer here, a florist, a lawyer, so it's like the business center of the village. There are actually 3 business centers in this village of 2,000 people. Look at this. Someone must have actually come here and planted all this. Somebody chose to do it. I mean, they could have not done it. They could have just thrown a lot of pebbles and left it at that, but people want it to be beautiful. There are often problems with signage design in America. They're rubbish here. In this village, someone went to the trouble of ordering signs. Somebody hired a man that designed it, made the signboard so that you can change the little signs. It looks beautiful. They've ordered the logo, designed the stickers, made the signage. It feels good. Here's another one. Yeah, it's probably a brewery by the looks of it. The paradox of America is that when in general in Russia, the larger the city and the closer it is to the center, the more order, cleanliness and beauty there'll be, while in America it is often the opposite. And this kind of province with a small population is going to be neater than downtown New York. Because often in Manhattan, where Dennis likes to live, it's full of rubbish. I actually live in New Jersey. But am I right about Manhattan? Yes, Manhattan unfortunately suffers from these vices. It's the same if we look at San Francisco. It's full of some homeless people, there's rubbish and so on. Where do tourists actually come to in America? For most first-timers to America, New York is Manhattan, so they go there. They see all these skyscrapers, they walk around the streets there, and then they come back saying America's so dirty, it's terrible, because they think that if NYC is like this, if you have roads like this, so much rubbish in the center of the biggest city, what's left to say about the province? Because their life experience tells them that it will always be worse in the provinces than in a big city in the center. To find the beauty and tidiness, you need to come here, a village that has a population of around 3,000 people. Here it's like a fairy tale. What year is that? It's 1700, 1754. Wow, this is actually someone's house. It just stands there out of one of the big streets, and no one thought of damaging and removing the shutters. Not one of the owners took those shutters, threw them out. They're still here. That's beautiful. Just have a look how it's all looked after. Again, I have to mention the lawn. We only have such lawns around the Kremlin and on Rublevka. A perfect lawn, landscaping design, I can't believe it's all in the middle of nowhere. And there's no fences anywhere. I mean, you're walking around, you're doing fine, it's the main street of a small town, and bam! There are these awesome, beautiful and orderly lawn and trees. On the other side of the road, there are these perfect brick houses. There's none of that cheap stuff. No one's covering their houses with ugly siding materials. Everything's covered in flowers. No corner has been left behind. There's this little nice horse. There's a rath here. This one's from 1786. Look, what miracle! It's an 1874 door. It's the original door. Yeah, it's an original door with a letterbox. Look at this handle. It seems there are Jews living here. All this order and cleanliness, it is maintained by the residents. It's not like the mayor is going to clean this place up like this. It's just that the owner of the building, they keep the establishment clean and tidy. There's a barn in the background. You can't really see it from the street. And one might have thought it doesn't matter what it looks like, no one can see it, but this person just goes and makes a beautiful luxury barn. You'll also notice that the decor isn't just there, it's changing. They're currently preparing for the 4th of July, the Memorial Day. So it's Remembrance Day, so American flags are lifted and placed on soldiers' graves. So once the Memorial Day is over, they will likely change the decor for the 4th of July. They'll have a wreath of American flags and so on. And then Christmas will come and there will be a Christmas wreath. For Thanksgiving, they'll have something different. Probably something with pumpkin and corn and stuff. People change the decor of their houses all the time. It's a constantly ongoing process. They didn't just plant a flower here and forgot about it. They're always doing something about. You can see that the town is alive, that it's not a showcase, it's a living organism. Judging by the architecture, it's always been a wealthy city. These aren't poor houses. When they were built, it was evident that the people who built them had quite a decent income. The house across the street is so pretty architecturally wise. It's not just they built something. They've worked with an architect, they brought the materials from somewhere far away. It's a nice house. Once again, it's a small town. There are only 3,000 people living here now. Before that, there were 500 to 1,000 people. After the war, there were 2,000 people. It's a relatively small town. In Russia, there are plenty of such small towns just outside Moscow. There are these big mansions, streets where businessmen live and so on. This is actually the first house we've seen with a fence, but this fence is mostly transparent. Look, this house and the one over there have original poles to tie up horses. I think that it's been here since the house was built. It's probably just been moved closer over here, but the actual artifact is original. Look, there's a candle in every window and it's beautifully lit. The downside of the Amish is that all the roadsides are in manure. Hang on, there's an American lorry driving past us. That's the most unkept area by the house so far. Hang on, it just seems that there's different types of grass growing here. That's not weeds, that's some kind of... Nah, it's not different types of grass. Yes, it is. And apparently, it looks like this house is actually unoccupied. There's no one looking after it. I can't rule out that it's just an elderly person living here who has a hard time doing the lawn. So it might have been that a neighbor helped here and there to make it look a little bit better, but it doesn't look all that terrible. I've noticed that it doesn't look terrible either. It's just not well looked after by local standards. This house looks quite new. Well, let's see. It's from 1787. Do you think that's new? No, but we've seen older houses. Yes, but it's made out of wood. It's not even covered by anything. There's no siding here, no brick cladding. That's pure wood with nothing extra. By the way, I saw a house like this being dismantled here. And so these wooden bars were sold separately and they were quite expensive because they're well dried and they're in demand. It's not rubbish, it's good building material that can be used elsewhere. Well, once again, it's very important to realize that here in this American province, there is all the infrastructure to make traveling here more comfortable. There are some restaurants, even chain restaurants, there are snack bars and so on. There's a Starbucks here. But nevertheless, even if we go all the way to the regional center, to Lancaster, we'll see a great number of excellent coffee shops, where they do specialty coffee from some amazing beans and some other decent restaurants. And here there are normal roads, there are car parks, petrol stations. In general, everything is created so you can drive around the country and do it in comfortable conditions. In Russia, as you know, there are problems with this. Even from Moscow to St. Petersburg, it's difficult to get via small towns. Another very interesting location. Look how many horses there are, how many of these buggies. And for good reason. There are 2 courts where guys play baseball, and they seem to be amateurs. There are their parents and other adults watching. The stands are quite busy. Interestingly, the stands are divided by gender. That's where the men sit, and there's where the women sit. And best, there are elderly women and elderly men closer together, but young people are all separate.
It's not a baseball. It's a different game.
Softball.
Softball. What's the difference? The ball is different.
Yeah, it's a bigger ball.
Everything else is the same.
You don't go overhand. You pitch under.
It's more.
It's not fast pitch.
It's more safe for the players, I think.
For the old people.
Yeah, for the old people. It's like a traditional Amish game.
Yeah.
What else game do you play?
Volleyball.
Volleyball and softball.
Yeah.
Do you play soccer?
Not so much soccer.
It's just not popular, or it's...
Yeah, not.
We are from Russia, and we play mostly the soccer or baseball. And
You're a lot of soccer there. Right?
Yeah, the soccer is most popular game. Yeah.
Right.
Do you know anything about Russia?
Why not?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Do you know that Russia exists?
Yeah.
Oh, you like it? It's a holiday today.
Yeah.
What's the holiday?
Ascension Day.
Ascension Day. It's like a national holiday, or it's?
Not so. I don't think it's so much a national holiday.
It's a religious.
Yeah, religious holiday.
What do you usually do on this day?
Get together like this.
Just family day.
Family, family, friends. Yeah. This is a youth group here.
Of course, there is a museum of Amish culture in Lancaster County, and we couldn't have missed it.
Welcome to the Amish village. My name is AJ. I'm your tour guide for today. I'm just here to teach you a little bit about how the Amish live and show you what their houses are all about. The room that you're in now is called a sitting room. Amish use it for 3 things. You have your weddings, your funerals. This is also where you have church.
It's a gas lamp, and there's a gas cylinder, and it lights this lamp. This cooker is wood-fired, and this is a gas fridge. I don't really understand how it works, but there's even a sign that says it's a gas fridge. There are also some irons and stuff. It's all using some sort of batteries or some kind of prehistoric stuff that runs on fire.
Amish can get married to anyone they want to, even if the other person isn't Amish. It's completely okay. Just doesn't happen much. When Amish teenagers turn 16, they take a couple years to go out, see what regular life is all about, before they decide if they really want to join a church and be Amish, or if they want to be English instead. If you're not Amish, you're called English, no matter who you are or where you're from. When the Amish came over here to America, all there was English people, so everybody's English to them. So when these teenagers go out and see English life, they call this Rumspringer. It's a German word that means jumping around. And that's from when you're 16 all the way until you're 25. So the teenagers will go out, they'll put boomboxes in their buggies and play it as loud as possible. Or they'll get drunk on the carriage and pass out. Then let their horse take them back to the barn. Yeah, you can actually get a DUI on a horse and buggy. It's happened before. Yeah, I heard a story the other day about an Amish guy getting out of a DUI. So he was driving drunk and while the police were chasing him, they weren't going very fast. So he decided to jump out of the buggy and let the horses keep going. So this guy jumped out and sprinted right into a field. And the police had to stop the horses first, so they never really got a chance to look for the guy, and he got away. Yeah, you think Lancaster's really nice and quiet now, don't you?
This is a farm. This one actually looks authentic. I've been to an operating farm here and the only difference is the number of animals. You can see they have tobacco drying here. This was actually quite a popular business amongst the Amish back in the day. They were growing tobacco and selling tobacco leaves to companies that make cigarettes. So they grew tobacco and they have special barns for it. It's a very clever design. They have a huge area opening up so that there is true ventilation so that dries but doesn't burn in the sun, and also that the moisture doesn't build up inside the barn. The barn needs to be well ventilated. It's all very mechanically thought out and is well constructed. And that's the kind of barns that those Amish who still harvest tobacco, and there's a lot of them, you can see it by the number of tobacco fields, keep all of their tobacco in. The operating farm that I've been to had these exact same horse stalls, and the owner was telling me that he was buying ex-racing horses. So when their time comes and they're no longer good for the races, the Amish buy them to hitch up to their buggies. That is, they often have quite good running horses harnessed in the buggy, which are just too old for the races and moved on to another level. Here is an example of such a small roofed bridge which can often be seen on local roads. The question is, why do these bridges have roofs? That's to protect the wood from the weather. So basically this roof protects the bridge and extends its service life. Because an unprotected wooden bridge lasts around 10 to 15 years. A covered protected wooden bridge can last up to 100 years, as evidenced by local bridges. It's a lot easier to change a roof than to rebuild and replace the whole bridge itself. That's why local bridges have roofs. Now we're going to see what an Amish school looks like. There's this barn-looking door. And here's the class itself. They have mixed gender classes, but the children are separated. Boys sit on the one side, girls on the other. I read an article about their education, speculating on whether it was good or bad. We know that their education is quite primitive. They're only taught what they have to be taught and nothing else. That is, the basic course is literacy and numeracy. But they're all bilingual, they're all talking two languages. They're all learning their German and their version of Pennsylvania language. And they're learning more about, for example, the land, things about nature like livestock health. That is, they study what they need in life, things that surround them. They just don't use things like sociology, chemistry and physics in their ordinary life, so they don't have classes dedicated to it. Talking about language, look, there's a child's homework right there. And there's a picture, and das Haus, das Maus. Well, I may be reading German wrong, but it's definitely German. They speak a dialect of German. To make it clearer, there's British English and American English. They sound different, but it's basically the same language and everyone understands each other. They have a similar version of German where instead of saying sound O, they'll say ah, but basically they talk and understand one another. One of the funniest things I've ever seen is, well, we have another religious group who lives in the region, ultra-Orthodox Jews called Hasidim. They speak Yiddish. Yiddish is also a dialect of German. So I'm wondering how they can communicate with each other, because some people have a distorted version German and in others a distorted version of German. But they communicate and understand each other. And it's also interesting that when Jews have big holidays, Hasidic Jews come here, bring their children here. And there stands a Hasidic woman in her wig and looks amazed at Amish women in those old-fashioned dresses. And everyone has a look of bewilderment in their eyes. Is it possible to live like this? Is this really how people live? So they each have their own thing going on, and yet each of the communes thinks they live right and others don't. Oh, and most importantly, of course, as you can see, since the school is just one classroom, there's nothing else apart from it, the toilet's outside. You shouldn't be surprised. Russia teaches us that you have to suffer. It's especially handy in winter. So yeah, that's one of the schools. It's this little shed. I think that this is gas that they use there for heating and everything else. There are small swings and there are two toilets, one for girls and one for boys. That's the whole school. So the school is just one classroom. It's behind a fence and the blinds are down since it's a day off. After feeding the brain, it's time to feed the body as well. Especially since the Amish own what's said to be the largest buffet in the United States. Let's go see what it looks like and what they feed you. If a buffet in America is usually a Chinese buffet, you've probably been there before. This is an Amish buffet. So it's their products, grown and prepared here following their recipes. And it's a possibility to actually get to know their food. You may like it, you may not, but the thing is that you can try it all in one place. Nibble, taste, and conclude if you like it. You pay at the door, they give you a table, and then you just eat as long and much as you can. Here are the prices. They serve breakfast. The place is open from morning to night. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's also some kind of early bird dinner. So it's Thursday now and it's a barbecue tonight. You're lucky. I know that you love barbecue. And it only costs $21.99 for eating non-stop. Well, isn't this heaven on earth? Pork ribs, pulled pork, brisket, fried shrimp, New York strip steak, anything you want. By the way, if it's your birthday, you can eat for free. You show your license or a different ID that has your birthday and you can eat for free. Look at the size of the buffet. You sit down, they give you a table, then they give you the cutlery. Well, if you accidentally drop them, you can still get and grab new ones there. This is not a problem. They give you a piece of paper and when you finished eating, you turn it over, which means that everything's ready to be cleaned up and is good to go. And while you're grabbing new food, people come to the table, clear the plates and take the dirty stuff. You're unlikely to do more damage to your body, your health, both physical and mental, in any other place in this region. What do they have here? Roast beef, sauerkraut, mashed potatoes, boiled ham. This is Amish food, by the way. They also have some universal dishes, beans, Brussels sprouts, and so on. Here are the famous Amish prawns that can be found in the Amish rivers. Here is their specialty pie, some American pies and some other stuff. You can add something else on the plate. There's also ice cream over here. Just look at the size of this hall. Sometimes this place is full. Just imagine how many people are eating here at the same time. That being said, it's amazing they bring up new stuff all the time. No food is coming to an end. Well, it all looks like a 5-star hotel in Turkey. There's plenty of everything. They have an actually huge hall, but what surprised me was the nice price. I mean, by American standards. Eating here with taxes and all came to $25 including drinks. How are you feeling? I can't breathe. Let's go, stop eating. So what, are we flipping this over? Yes. After such a food variety, let's go look at the food again, but this time in the supermarket. So we're going to the supermarket, but it actually doesn't belong to the Amish. It belongs to a religious group we've previously mentioned, the Mennonites. They are more relaxed, they have more freedom to maneuver. They have a more versatile business and can run things like this. You can see who the owners are from this family photo here. As I understand, there's a founding father and his lovely wife who started this business. Well, all in all, it's just a normal supermarket with normal checkouts. There's nothing special about it. And a set of groceries, but then again, this supermarket is in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, this is not even a town, it's surrounded by fields and forests and people living in some tiny little villages around it. It's a huge supermarket in the middle of nowhere. Nothing needs to be said, there's just a fun mix of products here, of ordinary American foods and the products that Amish consume. Well, let's take a look at the books. Studying the Bible. My first Bible. Children's Bible. Bible stories in 5 minutes. Jokes and fun. Recipes. You'll never walk alone. Never walk alone, especially among the Amish. A time to keep silent. The books talk here, you see? Look how beautiful it is, look. We see that these people are fake, that they're just actors. What's this hairstyle? It's meant to be a bowl cut. You saw it today, didn't you? The actors can have it different, I guess. And here we have the current hot topic. The women of the Bible, for women of color. Oh, here, look. 1 minute with God for men. Do you have any friends you need to buy a gift in America for? I think it'll make a great gift. Just read day by day, look at all this advice, and you'll immediately understand what to do. Life is getting better. In June, things start to make sense, things start changing. Come on, let's see what else they have. There's a lot of manufacturing of all sorts of local goods here, by the way. Goods produced locally. Farmers, almost all of whom are Amish, they have a lot of dairy farms. We've been driving around the area, so we've seen it all. There are a lot of farms, and they're mostly meat and dairy farms. Let's have a look at what kind of meat they sell here. You can see it's local even from the packaging. 35, 8, 9, so that's about 5 kilos of meat. $74, that's actually a brisket that you can cook. There are huge pieces and smaller ones. This neck roast piece is $44. As I understand, this meat is meant to be good without any antibiotics. Actually, in America, this sort of food isn't that popular. Well, I mean, they don't really consume it here. That's why there's no cooked ham here. But the Amish love all kinds of meat products. And so you can see stuff like this in Russian and in Amish shops. They also sell something here called raw milk. Not pasteurized milk from the cow. In New York, it's banned by law, but it's being smuggled into New York. There's a business where people come here, buy Amish groceries and bring them back to New York. But because it's not certified, it's illegal. They're kind of a subscription-based distribution service. You take certain cards, you go into certain shops, and in the backyard they'll give you a GMO-free organic products. The measurement unit here is a bushel. Do you know what that is? So this basket here is half a bushel. I honestly don't have much of an idea about bushel either. But you can hear something like, half a bushel of apples for me please, here, after the groceries.
It's time to wrap up. Hope you enjoyed Lancaster County as much as I did and discovered something new about how Amish communities live in America today, still obeying their old rules and traditions in the 21st century. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support my channel by sharing this video on Reddit or WhatsApp, and drop a comment below.